Hey everybody, it is me, Vincent, and welcome to another Vincent Vision. Watch out! This is my first Halloween Horror Nights video of the 2025 season, and I've got a really fun topic to talk about that's near and dear to my heart, which is video games! With HHN 25 featuring haunted houses and experiences themed to both Fallout and Five Nights at Freddy's, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the history of video game themed houses at the event. It's not a very long history, but some of the most classic and iconic horror games have had a surprisingly large presence at HHN events over the past 15 years in some really unique ways. But not just at the Orlando parks, even in Hollywood and all the way over at Universal Studios Japan. If you're someone who loves video games and Halloween Horror Nights, I hope you enjoy this video. And if you're looking for some more HHN content like this, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel to find just that. Let's get started. Now, when I was coming up with this list, I really tried to deep dive and find the oldest video game theme house that I could find to try and impress you guys with the knowledge that I already had about the event. And the first house that I thought of was in 2002 at the legendary Islands of Fear event, Maximum Carnage. This was a haunted house in Marvel's Superhero Island that featured Carnage and other supervillains, and the idea was that they had defeated all the heroes and taken over the island. I thought this was going to be perfect because I actually had a Sega Genesis game with the same name that I loved playing, specifically the first two levels over and over again because I was a little kid and not actually good at it. For the longest time, I thought that the Maximum Carnage game and the Maximum Carnage haunted house were connected, but turns out I was actually very wrong. The Sega game that I played was actually based off a comic book story called Maximum Carnage, and the haunted house had no connection to that comic book. They just simply borrowed the name because it sounded cool. I know we're starting the video off with an unrelated house that doesn't have anything to do with video games, but I guess really I was just curious to see if anyone else remembered this game. Also, the house had the Punisher in it, which is pretty cool too. Our first major haunted house that had some threads of video game connections was with a house called Saws and Steam, Into the Machine. This was in 2011 for HHN 21 and was also the first time a haunted house idea had come up from a previous scare zone. The concept of this house was that guests were signing up to join a utopian society known as the Horizon, where they would escape and be free from the waterless world of the haunted house's story. Turns out it was actually a trick, and the people entering the Horizon were being used to drain their bodies of water to power the steam-driven town of New Yorkshire. As you were getting ready to enter this haunted house, you would hear speeches inviting people to join Horizon, and through Art Deco posters of propaganda, you would see all the fake promises that awaited you as soon as you entered this perfect city. The theming of this haunted house seemed to draw some heavy inspiration to a big video game from 2007, Bioshock. Bioshock was a first-person shooter game that was incredibly popular and critically acclaimed, mainly for its groundbreaking immersion, with introducing us to the fictional underwater city of Rapture. Rapture, very much like the Horizon, featured a strong 1940s Art Deco style and lured people in with promises of utopia where there was none. Bioshock had such a perfect horror setting that playing the game at times felt like it would make the perfect haunted house, and I think a lot of fans of HHN around that time felt the same way. The issue with that, while still popular at the time, was that Horror Nights was nowhere near as influential and mainstream enough to be able to pool popular IPs to work with them for the event. At this time in the event's history, there were some years where you would only ever get one or two haunted houses that were based off of intellectual properties, if any. Truthfully though, Bioshock very loosely inspired Saws and Steam. Apart from the entrance of the house, nothing inside of it felt really based off of Bioshock. There was a scene in the haunted house that involved a character in a large diving bell suit charging out at you through a waterfall, which felt like an obvious reference to the big daddies from the game, but that was really it as far as Bioshock connections go. And I should also add that it was never confirmed from anyone at Universal that the video game inspired the design of this haunted house. It was just something that fans at the time felt like Universal was paying homage to. And perhaps they were getting ready to dip their toes in the water of true video game-based haunted houses the following year. Now, we jump to next year's event where we get our very first true video game haunted house. Welcome to Silent Hill. Silent Hill, one of the most scariest and most iconic horror games, is a perfect first video game house for HHN. Though not 100% based in the video game, the haunted house also drew inspiration from the Silent Hill movie franchise, which was going on at the same time. The full name of the haunted house was Welcome to Silent Hill, and was also a house that same year at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Hollywood. This was a best of haunted house, which featured different monsters and characters from the various Silent Hill games and movies. You had some characters that would have to make an appearance in a Silent Hill haunted house, characters like Pyramid Head, the nurses from Silent Hill 2, Robbie the Rabbit from Silent Hill 3, and there were even some of the monsters from the movies. But if you wanted to make a Silent Hill house right, the most important thing would be fog, and this house delivered on that, especially the Orlando version. You also needed to have the famous Welcome to Silent Hill sign that has appeared in various Silent Hill movies and games. The house also took you into the other world, truly the scariest part of any Silent Hill games, where you were traveling through rusted, twisted nightmare worlds that are synonymous with Silent Hill. I actually visited HHN Orlando this year in 2012 and skipped this house because I didn't really know much about Silent Hill. Making this video now, I definitely regret that decision. And I'll admit that even now I'm not super familiar with the original Silent Hill games, but I do think that Silent Hill really is a perfect candidate for a do-over HHN house. And I'm hoping that they could find a way to bring it back to Horror Nights, maybe based off the 2024 remake of Silent Hill 2, or the upcoming Silent Hill F, expected to come out in September of 2025. These games are a perfect blend of atmosphere and horror, which I think is the ideal combination for a great HHN house. It seemed like after 2012's Silent Hill, the creatives behind Halloween Horror Nights wanted to keep the video game combo going and brought another horror game titan to the Orlando event: Resident Evil. Resident Evil Escape from Raccoon City was a haunted house in 2013 based on Resident Evil 2 and 3. This house had the distinction of being fully based on the video game franchise and not drawing any inspiration from the Resident Evil movies, unlike Silent Hill the previous year. The concept of this house was that you were escaping Raccoon City and would come face to face with the well-known creatures from the game, like the zombie dogs, the Lickers, and the most famous of the Resident Evil antagonists, Nemesis. What made this extra fun is that you'd also see Jill Valentine and Leon Kennedy, the heroes from the game, in the house too. They were helping you get out of Raccoon City through various locations from the video game, like the Raccoon City Police Department. Universal worked closely with Capcom to make the house feel authentic to the video game, and hid tons of fun references for fans of the game. You could find green and red herbs throughout the house, graffiti referencing fan favorite characters like Hunk, and even moments in the house where you'd be able to save your game with a typewriter. The most obvious of the video game references, though, was where halfway through the house where you would actually walk through the game as it was paused, walking under a scene of Leon Kennedy shooting up at the tyrant above you. There were some other cool moments like Nemesis up on the second level shooting his minigun at you, and one more time right before the house ended he'd charge at you, but it seems like no matter how hard you tried, you were never able to make it out of Raccoon City, because the last thing you'd see before the house ended was the "You are dead" game over screen. Though it doesn't get talked about very much now, Resident Evil was a unique and standout house, and the dedication to the video game style would later pave the way for a future house at the event many years later. And unfortunately for us, this was the only time Resident Evil has made an appearance at the Orlando event, which is a shame because I think some of the newer Resident Evil games would make some pretty incredible haunted houses. Resident Evil 8 has some really great locations and characters that I'd love to walk through and see in a maze, and if they ever decided to do a Resident Evil 7 Biohazard haunted house, it would easily be one of the scariest houses in HHN history. But speaking of Biohazard, though we first saw Resident Evil in 2013 in Orlando, it was not the first time the franchise had made an appearance at Halloween Horror Nights. The first time was in 2012 at Universal Studios Japan, where the games are known by their original name, Biohazard. Biohazard was featured as a scare zone in 2012, where you'd see zombies and characters from the game roaming around and creating show moments throughout the night. The Horror Nights at USJ is a little different, where the scare zones are more like shows where guests gather around the monsters to watch them do creepy things. The year after, in 2013 though, USJ got their first haunted house experience with Biohazard The Real. I use the term haunted house very loosely because it was more of an interactive walkthrough, shooting / escape room experience. It's pretty hard to properly get a grasp on what this experience was like because it's very hard to find documentation of the Japanese haunted houses. But the gist of the haunted house was that your experience would start with meeting a team member who was dressed like an Umbrella Corporation soldier. You'd get weapons and at some point shoot away actors dressed like zombies and monsters, where you'd eventually come face to face with Mr. X from Resident Evil 2, which is pretty cool. This format was very successful, and this type of haunted experience has had 5 different versions of it over the years at USJ. The most recent being in 2022. They've also had a proper Resident Evil show, most recently at Japan's Horror Nights in 2024. It was called Biohazard Night of Heroes, and this was a standing show in the back of their New York section that happened all around you as nemesis and zombies and monsters would all come out to attack the audience, and then the heroes would show up in the nick of time to save you. And what was cool about the show is that it was all the heroes. I'm talking Leon, Jill, Ada Wong, and even Claire and Chris Redfield would make an appearance. This was an opportunity for fans to see and interact with these characters in real life. And man, I hope that one day I get to go to USJ during Halloween Horror Nights and see this show in person. Leave a comment down below if you wish to do the same. But let's make our way back over to Orlando and Hollywood and go to 2023, where our next video game haunted house premieres. This would be a maze based off the super popular Last of Us game, and would mark 10 years since HHN in the States gets a video game based experience. This was another house based directly on the video game, and Universal partnered with Naughty Dog, the creators of the game, to make it feel just like the video game. What I liked about this house was that even though the Last of Us show was going on at the same time, they still chose to base it off the game, which was having its 10-year anniversary. You were going through an infected Pittsburgh alongside Joel and Ellie and would see them throughout the house. Just like all the other ones, you came face to face with infected from the game, like the clickers, bloaters, and you got some eye candy with little hidden game references all throughout. The crafting table you used to upgrade your weapons, and bricks. You know, bricks from the video game, like Joel can throw the bricks. What was actually kind of neat about the Orlando house is that it was taking you through a very specific point of the first game. You walk into the haunted house and you are immediately dropped into the level where Joel and Ellie were getting ambushed by hunters, and he drives his truck into the hardware store. You'd go through a couple of somewhat recognizable scenes where ultimately the finale of the house was a part of the game where you were in the neighborhood and Joel had the sniper rifle shooting at all the infected that were coming at you. This house was heavy on infected, but only featured a few appearances of Joel and Ellie. But it was nice because the characters didn't interact with you, which is pretty satisfying for fans. On the flip side, the Hollywood version gave us tons of Joel and Ellie, and the two characters were featured prominently throughout the house. Before you even entered the house, you got to witness a scene with Joel and Ellie, with brand new dialogue recorded specifically for the haunted house by the original voice actors of the game. This one didn't feature as many iconic locations and items as the Orlando one, but you got tons of Joel and Ellie in this house, which I think as a Last of Us fan is what you're really looking for in a haunted house based off the game. If you got to see both of the houses, which did you prefer more? Now, that brings us to 2025, where this year's event on both coasts will bring to life both Fallout and Five Nights at Freddy's. These are two video game franchises that HHN fans have been wanting to see for a very long time, and now they're finally here. Though, the big difference between these houses and some of the others we've talked about in this video is that even though these are both based off very popular video games, Fallout will be primarily based on the Amazon show, and Five Nights at Freddy's will be based off the Blumhouse movies. I'd still expect some winks and nods to the video games, but you're also more than likely going to be seeing characters made for the show like Lucy and the Ghoul. I haven't seen much of the Fallout show, but I am familiar with the game and setting, and I'm very interested to see how they make Fallout into like a scary haunted house. The world of Fallout does have some horror element to it. The ghouls are scary looking, there's some pretty frightening monsters that exist in the wastelands, but Fallout's tongue-in-cheek tone never allowed me to think the game was ever really like scary, and the very little of the show that I've seen, it's definitely never struck me as a horror product, you know? And honestly, with Five Nights at Freddy's, I don't really have much to say about it being based off the movies over the games. I think fans have wanted this IP at the event for a very long time, and now that it's happening, people are just excited to see it. I think the FNAF games, while fun, really start to trail off into a level of lore and weirdness that the general public going to the event would be really confused about if they committed to the games. So I understand the decision to base it off the more streamlined movies. All I need to see from a Freddy game are three things: the animatronics on a stage, the security room from the first game, and the hallway where Foxy runs down to chase you. And that, my friends, is all I've got for this Halloween Horror Nights history video. Hopefully, you learned something that you didn't know about Halloween Horror Nights before. It was really fun to look all this stuff up. I love video games. I love Halloween Horror Nights. I'm hoping that we get some more video game haunted houses in the future. Please leave a comment down below and let me know what video game you think would be perfect for a Halloween Horror Nights event. But until then, I am going to get on out of here. Thank you guys for watching another Vincent Vision, and I will see you in the fog. Hoo ha ha ha.